High Admiral Vexterra stood motionless before the quantum display, her crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the holographic light as she studied the anomalous readings from Sol system. After 3 centuries of monitoring this unremarkable star system, something had changed. The primitive species inhabiting the third planet had done the impossible. They'd disappeared from standard detection entirely. "Run the analysis again," she commanded, all 4 of her eyes fixed on the display. The ship's quantum intelligence compiled the data once more, but the result remained the same. Earth's electromagnetic signature, which had been growing steadily for the past century, had vanished almost overnight. "Analysis confirms previous findings, High Admiral," the AI reported. "No detectable radio emissions, no quantum signatures, no standard energy patterns. Yet orbital surveillance shows their civilization continues to advance at an accelerated rate." The Zetharian Empire had watched countless species develop, guiding them along the prescribed path of technological evolution. Radio waves always came first, followed by quantum communications, then dimensional folding. It was the way of things, the natural progression that had held true across thousands of worlds. But these humans had somehow stepped off that path entirely. "Show me their energy consumption patterns," Vexterra ordered. The display shifted, revealing a civilization that by all measures should be producing massive electromagnetic signatures. Their cities glowed with power, their orbital installations grew more numerous by the day, yet they remained silent in all traditional spectrums. Latest analysis suggests they'd developed some form of containment technology. The AI continued. "They're not primitive. They've simply found ways to mask their advancement. Traditional monitoring methods are no longer effective." Vexterra's crystalline fingers traced the outline of Earth on the display. In all her centuries serving the Empire, she'd never encountered a species that had managed to blind their surveillance so completely. The implications were troubling. If humans could hide their technological signatures, what else might they be capable of? "Deploy the probe fleet," she commanded after several moments of contemplation. "Fold spectrum analysis. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The order was transmitted instantly, and within moments, a dozen stealth probes detached from the Zetharian vessel. They were the pride of Imperial technology, virtually undetectable by any known means. They had successfully infiltrated the defenses of 100 worlds, gathering crucial intelligence that had helped the Empire maintain its dominance. None of them made it past the asteroid belt. The probes simply vanished, one by one, without triggering a single alert or defensive response. There was no debris, no energy discharge, nothing to indicate what had happened to them. They were simply gone, as if they'd never existed. For the first time in her long career, Vexterra felt something she'd never experienced before. Fear, not of human weapons or technology, but of what their existence implied. Here was a species that had completely bypassed the standard progression of technological development, creating something entirely new and unknown. "High Admiral," the AI's voice interrupted her thoughts. "We're detecting an incoming transmission. Origin, Earth." "Impossible," Vexterra whispered. Their ship's location was protected by the most advanced cloaking technology in the Empire. Even their own probes couldn't have detected them at this distance. The message appeared on the quantum display, transmitted in perfect Zetharian script. "Greetings, High Admiral Vexterra of the Zetharian Empire. We apologize for the destruction of your probes, but we prefer direct communication to surveillance. Would you like to talk?" Vexterra's exoskeleton vibrated with tension. The humans hadn't just detected their ship. They knew who she was, could communicate in their language, and had casually swatted aside the Empire's most advanced technology like insects. "Send word to the Imperial Council," she commanded, her voice steady despite her growing unease. "Tell them we've made a grave miscalculation. The humans haven't been isolated from galactic society because they're primitive. They've been isolated because they're far more advanced than we ever imagined." As she prepared to respond to the Earth transmission, Vexterra couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to change forever. The Zetharian Empire had long believed itself to be the pinnacle of civilization, the guiding light for younger races. But now they faced something entirely new, a species that had charted its own course through technological evolution, developing capabilities that defied imperial understanding. The humans were about to step onto the galactic stage, and Vexterra suspected they would do so not as another subject race to be guided, but as something the Empire had never encountered before, an equal or perhaps even a superior. Fleet Commander Sarah Chen stood at the bridge of the ETS Shadowdancer, watching the holographic display as it tracked the movements of the Zetharian patrol fleet. The massive alien vessels moved in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. They were beautiful in their own way, and completely oblivious to the trap they were sailing into. "All ships confirm ready status," her tactical officer reported, voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel through space. Old habits died hard, especially when hunting. Earth's response to the discovery of the Zetharian Empire had been characteristically human. They had prepared for both peace and war simultaneously. While diplomats engaged in careful negotiations, the Earth Defense Fleet had been studying every scrap of intelligence they could gather about Zetharian military capabilities. "Time to show them why they should have been watching us more carefully," Chen said, her fingers dancing across the neural interface built into her command chair. "Execute Operation Blindside." The first phase of the attack began without any visible sign. No weapons fired, no ships moved. Instead, dozens of quantum field generators, disguised as ordinary asteroids and deployed months in advance, activated simultaneously. The effect was instantaneous. Every Zetharian sensor system within 50,000 kilometers suddenly went dark. The alien ships responded exactly as predicted, activating their secondary scanning arrays and moving into a defensive formation. It was textbook Zetharian military doctrine, and it played right into human hands. "They're deploying emergency quantum beacons," the sensor officer reported, attempting to re-establish their network. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Initiate Phase 2. The real beauty of humanity's approach to space warfare wasn't in their weapons. It was in their understanding of how to make an enemy's strength their greatest weakness. The Zetharians relied heavily on their quantum communication network, using it for everything from targeting to fleet coordination. They had never conceived that someone might use that network against them. Dozens of stealth drones, carried by the Shadowdancer and her sister ships, activated their quantum mimics. Each drone began broadcasting false signals that exactly matched Zetharian protocols, flooding their network with phantom ships, false threats, and contradictory orders. The Zetharian formation began to break apart as individual ship commanders received different and conflicting information. Some vessels turned to engage non-existent threats, while others attempted to maintain formation against rapidly shifting coordinate data. Their command and control is compromised. The tactical officer reported with professional satisfaction. Flagship is attempting to restore order, but they can't tell which signals are real anymore. "Launch strike teams," Chen ordered. This was the riskiest part of the operation. Actual combat with Zetharian vessels. But humanity had spent years preparing for this moment, developing technologies and tactics specifically designed to counter alien defenses. The ETS Shadowdancer and her escort ships decloaked simultaneously, revealing vessels unlike anything the Zetharians had encountered before. Where alien ships were elegant crystalline structures bristling with energy weapons, human vessels were dark, angular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The first salvo wasn't energy beams or plasma torpedoes. It was a barrage of kinetic penetrators, simple tungsten rods accelerated to relativistic speeds. The Zetharians' energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and laser fire, proved tragically ineffective against solid projectiles moving at appreciable fractions of light speed. Multiple impacts confirmed, the tactical officer reported as the first Zetharian vessel's crystalline hull shattered under the barrage. "Their shields are adapting, but slower than projected." Switch to phase alternating rounds, Chen commanded. The next wave of projectiles carried a nasty surprise: quantum field disruptors that would prevent the Zetharians from simply reinforcing their shields against kinetic impacts. The battle that followed was brutally one-sided. The Zetharian ships, designed for long-range energy weapon duels, found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any known tactical doctrine. Human vessels darted in and out of quantum shadows, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before return fire could find them. Enemy flagship is signaling surrender. Communications reported after 10 minutes of chaos. The rest of their fleet is standing down. Chen nodded, feeling no satisfaction in the victory. This had been necessary. A demonstration to the Zetharian Empire that humanity wouldn't be an easy conquest. But it was only the beginning. "Prepare boarding teams," she ordered. "I want their sensor logs and tactical data. The Empire needs to understand that this was just a fraction of our capabilities." As her crews moved to secure the Zetharian vessels, Chen reviewed the battle data. Every aspect of the engagement would be analyzed, improvements made, new countermeasures developed. Because the next battle wouldn't be against a patrol fleet, it would be against the full might of an empire that had never known defeat. But humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, developing in isolation, taking paths of advancement that the Zetharians had never imagined possible. They had learned to harness quantum fields not just for communication, but for deception, developed weapons that bypassed advanced shields, and created stealth systems that made their ships virtually invisible to conventional detection. The galaxy was about to learn why the humans had chosen to remain silent for so long. It hadn't been out of fear or inability. It had been preparation. And now, the Zetharian Empire would face an enemy unlike any they had encountered in their long history of conquest. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the center of Earth's Advanced Warfare Research Division, surrounded by holographic displays showing the aftermath of humanity's latest engagement with the Zetharian Empire. The aliens had learned quickly from their initial defeats, adapting their shield technology to better counter kinetic weapons and developing new detection systems for human stealth vessels. But that was exactly what humanity had been counting on. "Show me the analysis of their new shield configuration," she commanded. The AI compliance instantly, projecting a detailed breakdown of the Zetharians' latest defensive technology. What she saw made her smile. "They're still thinking linearly," she murmured, manipulating the hologram with practiced gestures, "still trying to solve new problems with old solutions." The laboratory around her hummed with activity as teams of scientists and engineers worked on dozens of projects simultaneously. Some studied captured Zetharian technology, others developed entirely new weapons and defenses, but all shared a common goal: staying ahead of an enemy that controlled thousands of worlds. "Dr. Patel," her AI assistant interrupted, "Fleet Command is reporting successful deployment of the Quantum Ghost Protocol." The main display shifted to show a real-time feed from the front lines. A Zetharian battle group, responding to what they thought was a human fleet attack, was firing their advanced energy weapons at empty space. The actual human ships were attacking from an entirely different vector, their presence masked by technology that didn't just hide them, but created convincing phantom targets. "Their entire strategic doctrine is based on perfect information," Maya explained to the junior researchers gathering around her station. "They've never faced an enemy that could corrupt their quantum network so completely. Every countermeasure they develop assumes their basic sensing technology is reliable." But humanity had spent centuries developing along a different path. While the Zetharians had focused on ever more powerful energy weapons and impenetrable shields, humans had explored the fundamentals of reality itself. They hadn't just learned to communicate through quantum fields, they had learned to reshape them, to create false signals indistinguishable from reality. "New contact," one of the monitoring stations announced. "Zetharian vessels using some kind of phased reality drive. They're attempting to bypass our quantum disruption fields." Maya moved to the new display, studying the data with intense interest. The Zetharians were learning, adapting faster than expected. Their new drive technology allowed them to partially slip between dimensional planes, making them harder to detect and track. "Perfect," she said, surprising her colleagues. "They're finally starting to think differently. Now we can show them what happens when you step into our realm of expertise." She accessed her neural interface, connecting directly with the laboratory's primary research network. "Initialize Project Mirror Box. It's time to show them what humanity's been working on while they thought we were just a primitive civilization." Throughout the facility, previously dormant systems hummed to life. The product of decades of research into dimensional mechanics, Project Mirror Box wasn't just another weapon or defensive system. It was humanity's answer to fighting a war across multiple planes of reality. Transit successful. The AI reported as the first mirror box devices activated in the combat zone. Dimensional fold is stable and propagating. On the tactical displays, the Zetharian ships using their new phase drive suddenly found themselves trapped. The humans hadn't tried to stop them from shifting between dimensional planes. They had simply ensured that every plane the aliens could access led right back to where the human fleet waited. They thought dimensional shifting would give them an advantage. Maya explained to her team as they watched the battle unfold. "But humanity mastered dimensional mechanics centuries ago. We just never used it for communication or travel like they did. We had other applications in mind." The Zetharian ships, their greatest technological advancement rendered not just useless, but actively dangerous, were forced to retreat. But Maya knew this was just another step in the ongoing cycle of innovation and counter-innovation. "Begin analysis of their retreat patterns," she ordered. "They'll develop something new. Try to find another way around our defenses, and we'll be ready." Because that was humanity's true strength. Not their weapons, or their stealth technology, or even their mastery of dimensional mechanics. It was their ability to adapt, to take an enemy's greatest strengths and turn them into weaknesses, to look at problems from angles no one else had considered. In her private thoughts, Maya almost felt sorry for the Zetharians. They had spent millennia as the unchallenged masters of their region of space, guiding younger civilizations along their prescribed path of development. They had never imagined that one of those primitive species might have spent those centuries of isolation developing along a completely different trajectory. "Begin preparation for Phase 4, she announced to her research teams. "The Zetharians have shown us their response to our quantum warfare. Now let's show them why humanity's scientific development took such a different path from theirs." As her teams dispersed to their various projects, Maya studied the battle data one more time. The Zetharians were adapting, yes, but they were still trapped in their traditional ways of thinking. They saw technology as a linear progression, each advancement building directly on what came before. Humanity had learned long ago that true innovation meant sometimes stepping off the established path entirely, finding new ways to solve old problems. And as the war escalated, the galaxy was about to learn just how far off that path humans had gone. Ambassador Rena Calais watched the encrypted transmission with all three of her hearts pounding rapidly. The security feed showed human forces systematically dismantling a Zetharian defense platform without destroying it or harming its crew. Her people, the Nexari, had spent centuries trying to resist Zetharian control, but they had never imagined warfare could look like this. "They don't just fight differently," she whispered to her council of resistance leaders. "They think differently. They see possibilities where we saw only walls." The Zetharian Empire had maintained control over dozens of species through technological superiority and the careful manipulation of developmental paths. But humanity had shown that there were other paths, other ways of advancing that the Empire had never considered. "The humans have agreed to share some of their technology with us," Rena announced to the assembled council. "Not their weapons, something far more valuable. They're offering to teach us their methods of innovation." The chamber erupted in whispered conversations. The very idea was revolutionary. The Zetharians had always insisted there was only one proper path of technological development, carefully controlled and regulated. The notion that there might be alternative approaches threatened the very foundation of their control. "Watch this," Rena commanded, switching the display to a new feed. It showed a human teaching team working with Nexari scientists, demonstrating principles that seemed to defy conventional physics. They don't just give us technology. They show us how to think beyond the boundaries we've accepted for so long. The images shifted to show similar scenes playing out across other subjugated worlds. The Kithera, master engineers who had been forced to build weapons for the Empire, learning human stealth principles. The Vreen, a species whose natural quantum sensitivity had been exploited by the Zetharians, discovering how to turn that sensitivity into a weapon against their oppressors. High Command reports increased rebellion in 17 systems, her intelligence officer reported. The Zetharians can't maintain control when every species they've suppressed is suddenly developing technologies they can't predict or counter. Rena moved to the central platform, her bioluminescent patterns reflecting her excitement. For centuries, we tried to fight the Empire with their own weapons, their own tactics. We failed because we were playing their game by their rules. The humans have shown us that the rules themselves can be changed. A new alert flashed across the quantum network. Another Zetharian battle group had been neutralized, not by human forces this time, but by a combined fleet of former subject species using adapted human techniques. The Empire's perfect formations and overwhelming firepower meant nothing against enemies they couldn't detect, using weapons that bypassed their defenses entirely. Their greatest weakness, Rena explained to her council, is their belief in their own superiority. They think their path of development is the only valid one, that their technology represents the peak of possible achievement. But humanity evolved in isolation, free from their influence. They found different answers to the same questions. The displays showed more victories, more successful rebellions. The Zetharian Empire had spent millennia building a house of cards, carefully controlling how their subject species developed. Now humanity had shown those species that the foundations of that control were built on false assumptions. The humans call it lateral thinking, Rena continued. The ability to approach problems from unexpected angles, to find solutions that exist outside the established framework. While the Empire looked to the stars and saw only one path, humanity found countless alternatives. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy now. The Zetharians were facing not just military rebellion, but a fundamental challenge to their worldview. Every species they had guided and controlled was beginning to experiment, to explore new possibilities, to think in ways the Empire had never anticipated. "We're not just fighting for freedom anymore," Rena declared to her council. "We're fighting for the right to find our own path, to develop in ways true to our own nature rather than following the Empire's prescribed course." The revolution spreading across the galaxy wasn't just about military victory. It was about breaking free from mental chains that had bound countless species for millennia. Humanity hadn't just brought new weapons to the fight. They had brought new ways of thinking, new possibilities that the Empire's rigid hierarchy couldn't adapt to fast enough. "The Zetharians believe they can contain this," her strategic advisor noted. "They think if they can defeat the humans, everything will return to normal." Rena's bioluminescence pulsed with what her species' equivalent of laughter. "They still don't understand. You can't defeat an idea. Humanity has shown us that there are always alternatives, always different paths to take. The Empire's greatest weapon was convincing us there was only one way forward. That weapon is broken now, and it can never be repaired." Supreme Overlord Kexthan stood in the heart of the Zetharian Empire's central command nexus, watching as everything his species had built over millennia crumbled around him. The quantum displays showed a galaxy in chaos, not just from military defeats, but from something far more devastating, the complete collapse of the Empire's technological control. "They should have been primitives," he hissed, his crystalline form vibrating with fury. "They should have developed along the prescribed paths like all the others." But humanity had done something unprecedented. They hadn't just defeated Zetharian fleets or inspired rebellion. They had introduced chaos into a perfectly ordered system. Every subject species was now developing technologies in unpredictable ways, combining human innovations with their own unique abilities. "My lord," his chief strategist interrupted, "the humans are broadcasting a message. They're transmitting on all frequencies, using our own quantum networks." The holographic display shifted, revealing Fleet Commander Sarah Chen, Dr. Maya Patel, and representatives from a dozen former subject species. Their message was simple but devastating. "The age of the single path is over," Chen announced. "Humanity never needed your guidance to reach the stars. We found our own way, and now we've shown others they can do the same." Kex then watched in mounting horror as the transmission showed scenes from across the galaxy. The Nexari were combining their natural bioluminescence with human quantum field manipulation to create entirely new forms of stealth technology. The Kithera had integrated their engineering prowess with human dimensional mechanics to build ships that could exist in multiple realities simultaneously. "Your empire is built on a lie," Maya Patel continued. "The lie that there's only one way to advance, only one path to the stars. Humanity proved that false simply by existing. We developed in isolation, finding solutions you never imagined possible." The strategic displays were showing the final push now. Human fleets, accompanied by ships from dozens of liberated species, were approaching the Empire's core worlds. But they weren't using brute force or overwhelming numbers. Each species brought its own unique innovations, its own unexpected approaches to warfare. "Launch the Eternal Fleet," Kex then commanded. "All ships, all weapons. We will show them the true power of proper technological development." The Empire's greatest armada emerged from its quantum docks. Millions of ships, each a masterpiece of traditional galactic engineering. They formed perfect geometric patterns, their crystalline hulls gleaming with power, energy weapons charged and shields at maximum. But the attacking fleet didn't respond with traditional tactics. The humans and their allies simply disappeared, not cloaked or hidden, but gone in a way that defied Imperial sensors. "Impossible," Kex then raged. "There is no technology that could." "That's your problem." Chen's voice came through again. "You think in terms of what technology can and cannot do. We think in terms of what could be possible if we approach problems differently." The Allied fleet reappeared, but not where expected. They emerged from dimensional pockets that shouldn't have existed, used weapons that violated what the Empire considered fundamental laws of physics, and coordinated their attacks through methods that Imperial sensors couldn't even detect. The Eternal Fleet, the pinnacle of traditional galactic engineering, found itself fighting enemies that seemed to ignore the very rules of warfare. Each species brought its own unique perspective, its own innovative solutions, all enhanced by humanity's unconventional approaches. As his fleet crumbled, Kex then finally understood. The Empire hadn't failed because humanity was more advanced. They had failed because they couldn't adapt to a galaxy where multiple paths of development were possible, where innovation wasn't bound by prescribed progressions. "Surrender, Supreme Overlord," Chen offered. "Not to humanity, but to the future. A future where each species finds its own path, develops according to its own nature." Looking at his shattered fleet, at the reports of revolution spreading across every Imperial world, Kex then made the first unpredictable choice in Zetharian history. He surrendered. The war ended not with the destruction of the Zetharian Empire, but with its transformation. Under the terms of peace, they would join the new Galactic Coalition, not as leaders, but as equals. Their technological expertise would be valuable, but only as one of many paths to advancement. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They hadn't just defeated an empire. They had fundamentally changed how an entire galaxy thought about progress and possibility. Each species was now free to develop along its own path, to find its own unique solutions to the challenges of existence. The era of the single path was over. The age of infinite possibilities had begun.